Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining today's sessions on Edutech Solution for Indonesian Education System. This event is a collaboration between Plug and Play Indonesia, which it has a global innovation alliance, which are trying to bring innovators into Indonesian ecosystem. One of the ecosystem is education, and today we are lucky to have several uh, fast-growing and innovative startup that aim to solve Indonesian business and also education problem. This event is also collaboration between Plug and Play and also ID Next Leader and also Universitas Mahakarya Asia. And before we start, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ferizka. So maybe we can move to the next slide because we might have some profile of the speaker as well. So my name is Ferizka. I am the rector or chancellor of UNMAHA or Universitas Mahakarya Asia. This is a new university that's just been established in Yogyakarta, Indonesia 1 year ago. But although this is a new university, actually history-wise, this is a mix between four different campuses that are merged into one. So as a university that is created in the time of pandemic, we are always trying to innovate with new ways and collaborating with a lot of innovative partners, including the Plug and Play. And today we are so lucky to have several speakers that will share that insight and also thought on Indonesian education and how technology will help to solve and accelerate the quality of education in Indonesia. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce speaker one by one, and I will also let everybody to introduce themselves because I believe I will not be able to do the justice for the introduction. So I will start first with Mr. Tiovan Widakdo, who is going to be our guest panelist today. So Mr. Tiovan, if you could share your video, that would be great. So Mr. Tiovan right now is the head of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Tiovan. Mr. Tiovan right now is head of the association called HPNNU, which stands for Himpunan Pengusaha Nahdlatul Ulama. So we know that Nahdlatul Ulama is Indonesia's largest Muslim association. Approximately, there are around 53 million members inside these organizations. And if we estimate, it's around 5 million of those are entrepreneurs from small, medium enterprises. So Mr. Tiovan is the leader of this association, and he is quite young, innovative, and also he is education activist as well. So Mr. Tiovan, how are you?
Hi, Ferro. I'm good. How about you, man? Nice to
I'm
see you.
good, thank you. It's an honor to have you here, Mr. Tiovan.
Yeah, for me too. Thank
You
you
want to
so much
share
for
more
inviting.
about HPNNU maybe? Very
Sorry?
quickly about HPNNU, please.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ferro. And hi, everyone. So my name is Tiovan, and now I'm leading one of the biggest SME organization in Indonesia under Nahdlatul Ulama organization. So it's called HPN, Himpunan Pengusaha Nahdien or NU. So it's basically organization that most of the member is SME, entrepreneur, SME, and it started like 9 years ago, and but I appointed just at the early of this year, so it's really excited to be to develop this organization, and yeah, if we can mention that in Indonesia, economic is really tough now, but SME is one of the power that can develop this the future of the country. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
happened.
Cool. We will talk more later, and I think I can introduce the second panelist. I will start with from startup called Hey Hi. We have May, who is the founder. So I will try to introduce Hey Hi with the best knowledge that I could. Hey Hi is a late whiteboard app with a video conferencing options that work on any device, laptops, tablet, mobile devices. It transforms online session into collaborative and engaging online and offline capabilities to engage students in a blended learning. If we talk about blended learning, I think this is going to be the trend in the future because now we are almost hopefully at the end of the COVID, and we are going back to school, and hybrid learning is going to be the, something that we need. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. May to unmute and also maybe add something that maybe I missed. Please.
Thanks, Ferro. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everybody. A very good afternoon to you. Really, Hey Hi was started, my background, I'm an educator, and I think Ferro would know, once you're an educator, you're always an educator. And Hey Hi is started with educators in mind. But we do acknowledge the power of technology, but we do not aspire for technology to take over teachers. Because I don't want to lose my profession, right? I mean, as a teacher, we know what we stand for and we know what machine can't replace us for, but we use technology to make us more effective, more efficient, and in turn, that translates to better learning for students. So in short, that's what we aspire to do in Hey Hi.
Thank you, May. And I would like to introduce the third speaker from VIR 360. We have Izzy, who is the co-founder of VIR 360. VIR 360 is a Singapore-based education technology startup that democratizes experiential learning using immersive technology. They provide a VR or virtual reality education platform and content to make experiential learning affordable, scalable, and teacher-friendly. Izzy, please, if I miss anything, please add.
Thanks so much for that, Ferro. And hello and selamat siang semuanya. I'm very excited to be part of this panel today to speak on such an important topic. So as Ferro quite rightly talked about us already, so I'm one of the co-founders of VIR 360. We are a virtual reality educational platform and content provider for K-12, trying to bring experiential learning, things like lab experiments, field trips online, and make it very easy for teachers. And I'm so excited to be here because, I went to school in Indonesia for 5 years. I've also spent some time teaching technology, and I'm very dedicated to bringing back high quality education to the region and not only letting people survive through this time, but also thrive as teachers, as people who are very noble in their professions and need a lot more support during these times. So really excited to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have from Yumcha Studios, Dr. Yan Wu. So Yumcha Studios is a language learning education technology company that fuses the power of great storytelling, and it has a proprietary characters with a leading edge pedagogy delivered through a multimedia content channel. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Yan Wu. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, so nice to be here. I'm actually calling in from Taiwan, actually, and the COVID situation is terrible in Taiwan right now. I'll just quickly, so Yumcha Studios, our key product is Dim Sum Warriors, because we love Ha Gao, Xiumei, and Ba Bao. So it's all about dim sum characters. What we do is, it's really the fruit of many years of my experience as a professor of education with a doctorate from Teachers College, Columbia University, and also as a creator of award-winning films and comics, really, so and musicals. So with Yumcha Studios and Dim Sum Warriors, we have really made very fun and hilarious, funny comics, and we use that for language learning. And we use apps and online draw along with kids to scale the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's jump into the panel discussion. So I will start off with a very generic questions. for everybody, right? So this is for all the speakers. So that you guys are maybe from Singapore, Yumcha studio is from Taiwan. It's all mature country. But let's not talk about Singapore. Let's talk about Indonesia. Indonesia has 17,000 islands, 400 cities. And in terms of income, we are in a medium income society. So what is your take on the adoption of technology to accelerate the advancement of nation's progression toward prosperity? So this is quite a question for a presidential candidate, but basically I'm asking, how can your technology helping country with our characteristic to excel and to prosper forward? We can start with anybody. Maybe with a doctor from Columbia University. I think you will have a lot of thought on that. Maybe Yan, could you start us with some?
Yeah, I mean the key with a country as diverse as Indonesia and with as rich a culture as Indonesia, I think what's really fun and interesting and really important for Indonesia is, of course, the first question is the question of access, right? Access to content, access to knowledge. And the second question, I think your minister has touched upon it, is the focus on how do we actually get Indonesia to leapfrog. Instead of focusing entirely on basic skills, can we go and jump over that and say, can we focus on global competencies? Can we focus on 21st century competencies? Because that's really urgent in today's world. So I believe that EdTech can reach a lot of people in Indonesia, and I think can also, besides providing basic skills, get a head start on providing the extra thing, which is global competencies, providing for collaboration, for creativity and communication. I think those things are very important. And what's really central for a country with as rich a culture as Indonesia is to always realize, to always understand that any solution that we provide has to be respectful of local stories, local culture, and actually make that a strength as opposed to chasing after something that's foreign and external.
That's cool. What do you think, Izzy?
Yeah, I love everything that Yan said. And I just want to add on to that, which is, I went to school in Indonesia for 5 years and I love the country so much. It is filled with entrepreneurial people who have a fighting spirit and a great insight into how to make things better. And one of the best things, actually, Ferro, it's interesting that you talk about Singapore or Taiwan as being more mature countries, so to speak, is that, no one does like social media, internet connectivity and like internet communities like Indonesia does, right? When I was living there and from what I've seen with friends there, that internet usage and the cultural behavior towards technology is already there. So as Yan mentioned already, it's just about increasing that access. That could, even though there's a high smartphone penetration rate already, that is obviously not equal across the entire region. There's high inequalities of internet connection. And so having that infrastructure there is really important to just allow people to do what they were going to do anyway, which is, utilize technology to improve aspects of their life like education. So in short, I think that Indonesia is already on their way to doing that. It's just about empowering local groups with the tools and infrastructure to do what they were going to do anyway.
Cool. Indonesia is on the way and the technology can improve and accelerate it. What do you think, Yume? Do you have another point of view?
Yeah, well, maybe because of the little bit of policy making background that I had before EdTech, we always think in terms of roadmap, right? What is the roadmap? If there is a desire and aspiration for technological advancement, and especially for a huge country with that many islands and cities, is really for people in power, government, to have a roadmap. Of course, the roadmap can't be applied for all the cities and all the islands at one go, but perhaps with the major cities, and the smaller cities will follow on. They will be slower, but it's still better than never. I think for a start, if network and hardware affordances can be provided, really software and content are plenty. So if the network system can be set up, if the last mile where people have their devices can be provided for, then I think really there is a flood of in terms of content and software out there that people can use. So my point of view is really what is that long-term roadmap that the government or the country would want to map out.
Very well. I think we can talk about that later offline, because in 2019, I'm helping the Ministry of National Education and also National Development Planning on the long-term plan. I think your solution, like Hey Hi and everybody, is going to help a lot in that area. So, Mr. Giovanni, last but not least, I think your view will be very, very useful to give us insight on these very big questions. How do you think the adoption of technology can accelerate our country towards its prosperity goal?
Yeah, based on my 5 years experience, I think the adoption of technology in Indonesia now growing really fast, and especially if we implement technology in education, which is Indonesia. We have, like you mentioned, we have 17,000 islands, right? So, yeah, technology will accelerate the economic and education, because I believe, like myself as example, I was born in the small city in Central Java, and I learned mostly at the time from the internet, right? I learned to code, I learned how to do a business. I have no mentors, and just learn from the internet and reading books, of course. And yeah, I can have a lot of money at the time, yeah, for doing business. And
that's good. So everybody, just to give a context, Mr. Giovanni, like you mentioned, yeah, I think that's great, Mr. Giovanni. That's so awesome, because I want to give everybody a little bit of context. The reason why we have Mr. Giovanni here is because he is the example of how technology can help people in a small rural area to compete at the highest level. He come from a humble beginning in a small cities, but in 2018, yeah, Mr. Giovanni, yeah, you are selected as Forbes 30 under 30, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Yeah, so yes. There it is, how technology can help. Really, really awesome. So, okay, I want to ask Hey Hi. I think this is very, very good questions to follow up on the previous content. Indonesia's focus on education is getting more and more intense, and a lot of attention is poured into this area. We know that as an island country, Indonesia's education infrastructures like schools and laboratories are not yet well developed because the budget is limited. How will solution like Hey Hi help Indonesia to address challenges, to accelerate its education and learning facilities that will result in a better learning experience?
Thanks, Ferro. Yeah, I mean, really, that is pretty much why how Hey Hi is developed for, and to be able to, bring education to countries that is of a different size and situation. So Hey Hi is built with both an online and offline functionalities, because I think it is not just to enable online capabilities, but these days, things are so unpredictable. We may be on site, we may be online, or even a combination of this. So we want to enable on-site, online, as well as offline use. And that is why Hey Hi is designed to empower teachers to engage students. And we design the functionalities to fit all these three circumstances. So even Singapore, we have gone through different trial and errors in the way we handle COVID. Well, we had our lockdown, well, we call it circuit breaker last year, where it's kind of like almost stopped for everything. But this time around, we take it step by step. If a school has cases, then that school will close, but all the other schools won't. So there would be cases where, you know, a student may be not well, may be positive, and that student is outside, is at home, but that student could be well enough to still continue to learn. And the same thing can happen to a teacher. And I was a teacher before. Whenever we have teachers who are absent, it is a big headache because you can't leave the class unattended. But if there is a tool that allows for online, offline, then it really doesn't, you know, that headache is not that big anymore, because teachers can tune in online. Teachers can still continue to teach while they are at home. There could be groups of students who are in the classroom, they can log in, and there could be a couple of students who are at home as well. So, you know, it creates that seamless flow between an online and offline flow of education. So we design our functionalities around that. We started with online capabilities, and in the next 1-2 months, we will be releasing the offline capabilities, and that would really enable a more blended and hybrid sort of learning.
Thank you. So still on the issue of limited infrastructure. So one of the challenges in Indonesia is limited infrastructure on the laboratory, because it takes a lot of money and a lot of budget to fulfill that, and our budget is limited. And VR, or virtual reality, is promise center. The VR's promise is that you can virtualize all the environment around you. The VR promise has not fully realized in emerging countries like India. So this is a question for a fear system. Why do you think the factor that slowed down the growth of VR, AR, or mixed reality adoption in general, and how will the approach from Fear 360 different with the existing, you know, VR provider in the market to solve this problem?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks so much, Ferro. And yeah, it's a problem that plagues not only Indonesia, but so many places around Southeast Asia where we're focused. Not enough schools have enough budget to purchase a laboratory or even have budget for things like field trips. And so that's terrible, because like those are great experiences for education. They're core to the experience of students learning and really internalizing what they've learned in school, not to be just theoretical, but to be real. And so, yeah, as you mentioned, VR is always seen as this great alternative to those kinds of experiential learning, but the adoption hasn't been high enough. And there are a couple of reasons for that. So hardware costs, right? So there's infrastructure costs, but hardware cost of a VR headset is still pretty high, because while lab equipment seems very expensive, it's going to be even more difficult to convince your principal or whoever to purchase a headset, right? When that's something that seems like some fantastical sci-fi tool. So hardware cost is still high. And in a similar vein, secondly, is internet connection, because many people associate VR with these very high-end headsets, which is not necessarily the case. And those high-end headsets need a lot of internet, and that is difficult for people who don't have internet connection. Third is localization, right? A lot of VR content out there is still very focused on the US or Europe or Anglo-Saxon countries like Australia as well. And so they're not catering to the needs of local countries and teachers. And then finally, there's like inertia of education, right? It's very difficult for people to change the tools. And it's not because teachers don't want to, because teachers are very dedicated to their craft. They want to achieve good results for their students. It's just that they're overworked, they don't have time, and they're underpaid. So they need more support. So this is where solutions like VR 360 and also other solutions in the region are trying to solve these issues. So let me just share my screen super quickly to give you an example of what we're doing to really see it. So you have a lab, well, here's a VR lab, right? You can translate your entire VR, your laboratory experiments into VR. And what we say is that all you need is a phone. So that's just like a visual, but let me talk about what we're actually doing and what other people in the region are doing. So hardware, one is that you just need a mobile phone, And that makes it a lot more accessible. You don't even need the best iPhone. You just need any smartphone is okay. Second is that we make our content accessible offline a lot like Hey Hi. And I think that's what's great about edtech solutions like ours is that we're really trying to make access a #1 priority. Third is that we localize through content creation and partnerships. We work very, very closely with schools to make sure that the content is not just some random US university school content plugged into Indonesia, because that's not going to work. And there are other companies out there like Assembler as well, that's local, that's also trying to do this kinds of thing. And that's really great. So we're all trying to work very closely with schools to customize the content. So hopefully these are solving some of the issues and making VR more accessible to everybody.
Awesome, Izzy. Wow, that's quite a cool demo. Although we just see the glimpse of it like only 10 seconds, but I think we can get the idea of how can the laboratory can be virtualized. So I'm imagining when I was in high school, I have to mix some chemical reaction and like a boom motion, everything. It was a little bit dangerous. So I think that this will not happen there if you're using VR.
Yeah.
So
you want to
next
see more,
question is to our,
room.
PhD group. Sorry? Pardon?
Oh, sorry, Ferro, you cut off a little bit. I was just joking. I was saying if you want to see more, you can join our breakout room.
Sure. So the next question is for our PhD in the room from Yumcha studio. So you utilize a very unique approach to English learning. We know that if you want to learn languages, especially English, there are a lot of methodology, but you are using comic, storytelling, and interesting character to help students quickly learn languages like English, for example. So I believe there are a lot of science and thought behind it because we have a lot of educators in the room. This is maybe a new thing for them. So would you mind tell us a little bit of the science behind it, why this is a better approach compared to the typical approach in language learning?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question, Ferro. So I'm going to share my screen a little bit. So we all know that it's important to learn languages like English, right? So in Indonesia, a lot of people want to learn English. In Singapore, a lot of kids want to learn Chinese, but it's hard, right? So often kids can spend many years learning a language and end up feeling still that they can learn all the grammar, all the vocabulary, and end up feeling like I'm not good in the language. This book has too many words. I'm too shy to speak the language. Ferro, how's the Indonesian there? It's translated by Luki.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. In Singapore, we'll say, oh, I can't speak it. It's very malu, you know. Okay, so the Dim Sum Warrior solution. So it's really I call them Jajana warriors because they're snacks, right? So we have a mobile app, Creative Draw Along, and also we have bilingual comic books. So again, the idea of online, offline, and then we have resources. Okay, so when we first learn a foreign language or a second language, we often feel lost, like we are in a new place, right? So if you look at the picture on the left, this kid is lost in this new town. But what kids need and what learners need is a map, right? They need a map to know where we're going and so on. Not a GPS, but a map. And John Dewey, the professor of education from years ago, talked about interest as being the key thing. If we can get kids interested in something, they can put in the hard work to learn a language. So the key idea that we work with in Dim Sum Warriors is we work with, so keep these ideas in mind and we can talk more in the breakout room, translanguaging, comics, reading aloud, and drawing. And here's why. The first idea is translanguaging. So it's something that has come up in the research in the past 10 years in the applied linguistics. So for example, if you were to be learning Chinese and I asked you, what is the word, what is the meaning, Ferro, you can try this. What is the meaning of the word 窗户? So if you say burung kakatua, ingat di 窗户. In that song from the famous folk song in Indonesian, Burung Kakatua, that we sing in Singapore as well. What do you think is the meaning of 窗户?
I think it's a window or jendela.
Yes, it's window. Absolutely, it's window. So what happens is translanguaging is the method of creating a map in your home language and using that map to learn the target language so that you don't feel lost. You're learning a little bit by little bit, you don't feel lost, and you feel supported. So I can give you more research in translanguaging later in the breakout room. So I'll give you an example of what happens in the app. It's your turn. He says my mud mask is too scary.
吓人，骗人。
Ayo tidur. Kalau kamu tidak cukup tidur, kamu tidak bisa tumbuh tinggi. Kalau kamu tidak cukup tidur, kamu akan mudah marah. Kalau kamu tidak cukup tidur, mama akan marah kepadaku. Tumbuh.
So you can see that we use translanguaging to create a map first and then to learn the target language. Comics are very important for language learning. So literacy development says comics are great because they're multimodal. You support through visuals, there's sound effects, there's text, there's expression. So through these multiple senses, you make language learning less scary. You make the target language less scary. Kids may not pick up a book with many words, but they will pick up a book with comics. So our comic reader app allows kids to read and listen to stories, practice speaking aloud, and build and we have vocabulary games as well. So reading aloud is another feature, and we also have very strongly drawing. So we also provide a drawing solution where kids are drawing together with our artists bilingually. So those different features allow kids to be able to learn languages in a way that really is much more bilingual. It's not just learning a target language alone, much more entertaining and much more engaging.
Awesome. This is quite innovative actually, because I learn quickly if I can relate to day-to-day scenarios rather than learning the grammar in a structured way. This is really great.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
The next question, yeah, absolutely. So the next question is to Mr. Giovanni Widardo. So I want to pivot a little bit to learning experience for company. You lead around 5 million Nahdlatul Ulama-based entrepreneurs. What's unique is they are all small, medium enterprises. So can you tell me, how does small, medium enterprises approach corporate learning? Because when we talk about corporate learning, we always bias with the big corporation like maybe Astra, BCA, or everybody. Give us the perspective from small, medium enterprise when it comes to corporate learning. How the technology that just been showed previously from our panelists can help those needs.
Yeah, yes, it is a really interesting question. So apparently what is needed by SME is simple, and the problem always resolved around there. The problems they always face is like operational management, like example, yeah, marketing, access to capital, and then production. So what we are talking about operational management here is like, for example, how to manage employees or manage finance, and well, how to improve business in an effective way. And these are the things that most the SME is need. So education for SME is more emphasized on how to do something. And corporate learning is not only for big companies, but in Indonesia case, the SME sector is also need it, especially now that I am responsible for empowering approximately 5 million members. And all of the Edutech Solution, I think now in Indonesia is, I think less than 5 players that face focusing on the SME. And like example, English is also needed by the SME, of course. And then VR, I think, yeah, VR for simulation, yeah, for simulation. Yeah, training with the an interactive way, yeah. So I think, yeah, we need more solution for SME, especially SME in Indonesia.
Super cool. Thank you, Mr. Theophan. So we are about to move to the second panel on 2:30 Jakarta time. So I will ask one closing question for everybody in the panel. So a dream can be realized if that can be imagined. So for all the speakers, I want you to put your imagination hat. I want you to illustrate the future. If I can ask you to imagine Indonesia in 2025, from 4 years from now, what are the difference that your product and services can make to this country? Give illustration as vivid and as clearly as possible so we can visualize how the future will look like after using your product and solution. Maybe I can start with email.
Thanks, Ferro. Well, dreaming time. Well, we definitely hope to see a case where, well, maybe there are some students in the physical classroom, some are at home, some are even in some other countries, like in Taiwan or in Singapore, right? Yet they can all learn together. So physical boundaries no longer is a barrier to receiving education. Yet at the same time, we preserve the authenticity, the love and care from a human teacher, something that machine cannot and should not replace. Yan earlier on quoted something from John Dewey, and I always have this quote of John Dewey at the back of my card, which says education is a social process. And that is something that I hold dear to my heart, and that's why Hey Hi is designed with a social element in mind, where people collaborate, come together, work together, engage with each other. So Hey Hi provides a technology to bring people closer despite geographical boundaries. It empowers teachers to do what they do best, which is to teach and to care. So what we want to do is to make teachers more efficient, give teachers quick feedback of their students' performance through our offline engagement facilities. And that makes teachers more effective in thinking through intervention, because that's what we are good for, right? So in the classroom, students will participate directly with their learning device. They don't have to wait to go up to the board one at a time, because they can all participate through the learning device via Hey Hi. Those who will not be able to be in class, join in online and participate as well. So with a common tool that is online and on-site, learning becomes seamless, and location is no longer a restriction. And it makes that engagement so much easier for teachers. And earlier on, I mentioned about replacement teacher for the day. So at least school administration would not have that headache. You know, they can have teachers on standby, especially in Indonesia. They could be in a city that is far away. There's no way that this teacher is going to travel to this school, but you know, you can still have them on standby to be replacement teachers using the online platform. So really, in this way, we can have the best teachers in the city to be doing a master class or coaching to schools in the islands or in the smaller cities. And if virus can spread fast, education and learning can as well. It's whether we care enough to make it happen. So let's embrace technology and make education spread faster than the virus.
Wow, that's a very strong statement. Let's make education spread faster than the virus. Really, really relevant for today's situation. So, Fear 360, Izzy, how do you imagine the future? Please illustrate us the future with Fear 360 in Indonesia.
Yeah, I think broadly speaking, I completely resonate with what Yan and Yumcha have both said. And I think that's what makes EdTech such a special space, where everybody believes that education is a social process. It is not just the instruction of information, it's the process of making good people. And that's why, you know, you have great people like us, hopefully, on the panel today. And I think that's really great, because we're all striving towards a similar mission. But I think specific to Fear 360, of course, our mission is trying to make experiential learning affordable, scalable, and teacher-friendly. In 2025, I envision a world where there's increased access to experiential learning without making teachers afraid to do it or to add more work to them. And I want it such that regardless of whether you're at home, you're at school for whatever reason, in a rural village, in a city, you should have access to these very core aspects of education. Because let's think about the benefits of experiential learning, right? Thinking about what a lab experiment can do for you, what training can do for you, going and visiting other places in the world, what that does for a person. And I want to see all of those benefits amplified in the world. It shouldn't just be Joven and just like an individual like him who's so amazing to be the only one. There should be more people like Joven in the world. And hopefully tools like ours and everybody else here today are able to achieve that.
Awesome, awesome. Yan, what do you think?
So I don't think any EdTech solution is gonna. So I think with the help of the wonderful teachers of Indonesia, Dim Sum Warriors will be able to get all kids to pick up a book in English and read it fearlessly, speak in English fearlessly, and tell their own stories in English fearlessly with the help of many of the wonderful teachers in Indonesia.
Wow, that's so short, but very, 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 very on point. Really, really great. So yeah, last but not least, Mr. Theophan, because you are representing the SME or small medium enterprise, maybe the question's a little bit different. Could you elaborate and also, tell us the future of the SME when they are able to adopt learning technology? How would that look like?
Yeah, so I imagine that in the 4 years later, if SME can learn everything for what they need about a business, right? So I think the economic will, because of they also can implement the standardized of the example like the operational business of finance. So I think the economic acceleration will be increased really high. So, and like my experience, I can find a good mentor at the time. So when we can implement also social learning that you mentioned before, I think it will be very good learning for them. And also 5G will be there, right? So I think rich content interaction will be nice thing in the 5 years from now.
Yeah, that's a very important information. 5G is going to be piloted in Indonesia. Actually, it's already here. So you will enjoy a very fast internet. The question is, what will you use it for? Is it for education or for Netflix? That's two different things, right? So we still have one. Right. Well, I love watching Netflix on 4K, but being able to use a VR is better, I think. So one question from the audience, I think, before we move to the next sessions, it can be answered by anybody. Please just unmute and then answer. This is a question from Errol Beecher. Hopefully I spelled the name correctly. It is known that kids and adults learn in very different ways. How to reflect this when developing an education technology? I think the question is about education technology is, created using one size fits all kind of approach, while people learning in different ways. How do you approach this? Anyone can answer it. Okay, maybe I will appoint. So what do you think, Yan?
Oh, what do I think? Okay,
because this is a little bit about the science of education.
It's true and it isn't true. Actually, adults and children don't actually learn all that differently, actually. So I would say that, like in our solution, for example, if we say using visuals, using multimodal methods, using comics, those are great ways for adults to learn as well. Where it shifts is actually in the content. So for example, adults are more interested in more grown-up comics, and then kids might be more interested in like more kiddie comics. But it's not so different. Like the method of learning is actually not that different. We are all visual learners. We are all kind of we learn through multiple modalities, and it's the same for an adult, it's the same for a kid. It's just the interest is different.
Oh,
Yeah.
you may. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, and I feel that people needs to be engaged in learning. So learning, I mean, we often assume that, oh, you know, you're adults, and so I can just do a screen share and just talk. But that is putting the responsibility on the learner, that if you want to learn, you listen. If you don't want to learn, that is your business because you're an adult. But I think if we are able to engage, whether it is adult learners or younger learners, and I think especially younger learners, they need to be engaged. We talk about, if students are not engaged in the work, how do you know what they are thinking? How do you know what they do not know? Because there's no point asking students, I mean, it's part of pedagogy, right? You don't ask students, what do you not know? They don't know what they do not know. But it's only when they show through their work that as teachers, we are able to see which aspect where there is a gap in learning, and that's where we can help them. And that's only done through engagement. And that's why Hey Hi is developed with engagement in mind, and that the whiteboard is the centerpiece to allow students and teachers to be engaged, to be working together as if they are next to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
And if
Izzy, you were about to say something, but you know, it's got great. Go on, Izzy.
Cool, yeah. And again, I agree completely with Yan Yan and Yume. What they've said is absolutely right about, you know, it's about the content that may be changed, engagement change is a core aspect of learning. And that really speaks to just like motivations. Like people need to be motivated no matter what. Like maybe the motivation changes itself, but motivation still needs to be there. I think for us with VR in particular, it's a pretty interesting case study, because I think my sentiment is that it really depends also what you're teaching. Because what we develop in VR is going to be for K to 12 is going to be very different from what we teach for polytechnics or for adults, and it's going to be different across all the ages. And you know, as Yan Yan mentioned, we're all very visual learners. We all like to try stuff, but what level of things that you need to try is going to change. So, for example, if you're a kid, maybe you're like 3 to 4 years old, you might not know what a car is. And so learning something through a car might not be very useful for you because you don't know what it is. But when you're older, your realm of understanding of things is larger. And so you can manipulate that to learn higher order stuff. So that's just kind of a unique thing that we find through the development of VR. But I think everything that everyone has said is absolutely true.
Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Yume, and thank you, Yan Yan and Fan. So we have a lot of questions in the Q&A, but maybe all the panelists can answer in the Q&A panel directly, and so we can address all the questions from the audience. I think they are quite curious about the content and also topic. So I think it's time for us to wrap first sessions. So I would like to say thank you and highest appreciation for every panelist. Mr. Jovan, thank you for your time. I know that you are very busy moving from one meeting to another. Ian Wu, thank you. I wish the success for Yumcha Studio. I have seen the demo, it's really, really great. And you made Hey Hi, I also see the demo as well. It was great and easy for your Fear 360. But everybody, for all the attendees, don't forget that after the second session, you can jump into the breakout room where you can talk directly with the founder of the startup and you can see the demo of the startup. You ask questions and you can discuss with them directly. So save your question for each of the panelists later on. All right. So thank you, everybody. And I would love to jump to the second sessions. And second session is going to be more about the future. So we have a Hansing from Twitter. So Twitter is education technology that is on the automated location-based education platform that connects learner and trainers. It's 24/7 instant. And with the Twitter on demand mobile app, it aims to continue to provide affordability, accessibility, and employability in education in the new normal and beyond. Second, we have a Glenn Lowe from SmartChan. SmartGen is a unique hybrid of integrated e-assessment and learning management system designed by educators for educators, streamlining educators' work processes based on data and AI-enabled technology. They enable customizable learning and teaching to best suit each individual learning objectives, improving education efficiency from creation of lesson material to the assessment and diagnostic of students' completed work. And we have also Yuan Yi, who is the co-founder of Hybrid Lab. Hybrid Lab is Singapore's award-winning media technology company. They drive digital transformation with emerging technology for an innovative and inclusive world. Their technology and platform and solution cover a range of latest technologies, including data analytics, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, cloud computing, system integration, and beyond, to empower organizations around the world to build their future digital infrastructure in innovation, communication, and operations. So last but not least, we have Associate Professors Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, I know since a long time ago, he is quite an innovator in education. He used to be the Dean of Mercu Buana University from the year 2017 until 2021, just recently. And he's also establishing and founding Rumah Counseling, which is startup to help people to basically solve their life problem using psychological approach, because Pak Iqbal's background is on the area of technology. So because we have a professor in the room, I would like to open up the sessions for Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, because he has some presentation prepared, so he can give us a little bit of context about what is the future of education from a psychological point of view. Dr. Iqbal, are you ready?
Okay, thank you, Mas Ferro.
Maybe if you can turn on the camera, that would be great, so everybody can see, where you are.
I turn open, but I cannot start it directly by
Okay.
center.
Sure. Okay, cool. Please, you have up to 8 minutes to present. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mas Ferro. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you for the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak today. What's the future? It is very difficult to predict. Sorry, I cannot open my camera, right? I cannot open directly.
I think you can open. Oh, okay. I will ask the admin to open it. Please go ahead.
Okay, without camera. Okay. All right. Thank you. So 2 years ago, no one imagined that the world would like this COVID change the way our life, and our daily activity, especially our study, because we have seen several advanced information and communication. Next slide. Technology communication. For the future, we have a 6 dimension, such as the first is integrated technology issues, and then personal mobile, and then tele collaboration, digital book, wearable computer, and anytime, any place learning, and etc. Next, anytime, any place learning, we have some models, and synchronous and asynchronous, local and remote. The example is chalkboard, overhead projector, slide. Text is we call same text, same place. But right now we have a sometimes different place. Video conference, audio conference, satellite, and other. Next. In the number of our recent inconvenience. Why? In this area, we always strive for every single convenience. Next. And then, in digital era, we have unfortunately social media plays a significant role in the self-education. We call self-learning, learning by doing, the teacher just as a coach, just guidance. Next. Any resources in our student right now, the resource by online learning can play a crucial role in education. It's provided a flexible approach to study, as well as giving learners the chance to connect with educator no matter where in the world they are. Next. How is our education condition nowadays? Our education system is losing relevance. Our current education system is built the industrial revolution model and focus in IQ. In particular, memorization and standardization skill that will be easily and efficiently supplied by artificial and augmented intelligence. Next. Is learning simply about gain knowledge? Yeah. Next. And then if it's so, maybe the teacher is not longer needed, yeah, because everything can be accessed online, self-learning. Maybe our student needed more teacher lecture because they can be learn by self, right? Next. We have a basic need for evaluation. We have social present theory in psychology. Everyone is we have a basic need for evaluation, and we make interaction not because there is action and reaction, but more than we feel connected to each other. Not only learn, but social interaction. Next. And education, how teacher keeping up with current education. A crucial factor have shifted to the future education. Pedagogical adaptation have proven to be visual and educational lecturing and person models do not translate to a remote learning environment. Teachers need to adapt their practice and be creative to keep students engaged as a very household has a classroom, more often than not without the environmental that support learning. Next. Education challenge right now is mindfulness. In this era, human beings are complaining about higher level of stress, and they carry out hyperactive lifestyles, and they become unhealthy and compulsive, including mental health issue. This has led to some response, especially in education in the area of mindfulness. What are schools doing and should be doing promote happy, focus, calm, and appreciate people? Next. Education challenge to singularity. The machine that human have built and the algorithm and the right to challenging the unique sum of essential. This is important for education. Artificial intelligence implies the some area of human activities and can be outsourced the machine, whereas other cannot. This leaves to space for our education to develop those facts of humanity that are uniquely human and cannot be taken over by artificial intelligence. Next. So education challenge 3 knowledge into 21st century because the new technology and the way that knowledge is made available to distribute the 21st century. Some believe that we need to rethinking what is the talk in the school entirely and perhaps teach less content, opening more time and opportunities for skill development. Next. Education challenge for our character. Yeah, we call national character building. At the core of any response for the global challenge that face of is the question the person's character. We can determine character through 3 concepts: discipline, ethic, and emotional intelligence. But more that we need mastery and determination. Next. Education nowadays should be prepared a system. Next. Student again, the knowledge, the skill, not only IQ. IQ alone is sufficient. A good blend of IQ, emotional intelligence, and resilience question is critical to unleashing a student potential. Next. Education nowadays should prepare a system to make students gain to knowledge and skill, not only for today, but also for tomorrow, in the future. Next. The content focus issue of the date. If education only focus on content, they are already irrelevant. Content can be found or anywhere. But if we focus first on relationship and our humanity, well, education content in compelling and empowering ways that put the need to the learner first, the future of education will always be safe. Thank you very much, Mr. Ferro. Assalamualaikum.
Wow, that's quite a speed delivery, Professor. Thank you. Wow, you have a lot of slides, but you can compress it in a very, very concise and short time. Really appreciate it. So maybe we will have questions later. Maybe I think the slide and the presentation is very good to open up the context. The idea is that in the future, education is not going to be about only classroom, but also will be a blended between classroom and digital adoption. Now, speaking of digital adoptions, I will talk to Hyperlab first. So to Hyperlab, let's talk about the future. To our reality, Indonesia is trying hard to accelerate education, quality, especially laboratorium. You have had a lot of big names. One of those is Liverpool Football Club's Anfield. So from clients that you have helped in the past, what are some lessons from all of those big brands that can be applied to Indonesia's educations?
I think it's the make difference with learning by doing online or offline is relationship and experience and the field.
Sorry, Professor.
Okay, yeah, sorry, not clear. Okay,
that's cool.
Okay, okay.
So I will with the question later. Question may be addressed to Yuan Yi from Hyperlab about what is the lesson learned from your big clients that can be applied to Indonesia's education. Later on, I will get back to you, Prof. Iqbal.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Ferro, for the question. So I think maybe before I answer this question, I'll give a quick introduction of myself as well as the company first. My name is Yuan Yi, and I'm the co-founder of Hyperlab. My personal background of education is in the National University of Singapore. I was trained in public policy as well as technology entrepreneurship. So one of my research areas was actually in global education policies. And we have been doing the business in the past 7 years. We have helped organizations, companies, schools at different levels to use emerging technology to create different kind of applications. So training and education is actually one of the key focus areas that we normally work on. And I think regarding the question that Ferro has asked earlier, talk about the future. What are some of those lessons we have learned from working with different kind of clients, big or small, and how these might be applicable to the Indonesian market? I think maybe there are, simply put it, there are 3 points, I think. The number one is regarding the accessibility of such experiences. So I think one of the common misunderstanding of immersive technology is that people will think you will have to wear a headset, mixed reality headset or virtual reality headset to be able to enjoy such experiences. But it doesn't have to be the case. There are ways where users can just use their smartphones or PCs to have access to immersive technology, AR and VR content as well. So when it comes to the design of the education experiences, accessibility or the hardware option needs to be taken into consideration. We need to clear some of those misunderstandings from the layman users who don't necessarily know all the technical terms. So this is where us as a content creator, solution provider can step in and give some kind of advice. And point number 2 is the customization. It is not realistic to expect one sort of content can match everybody's expectations or every single different types of use cases or objectives. You would have to look into the objective of your clients, of the users first, and then design such experiences accordingly. So, for example, adult learning, the kind of skills that adults are looking into can be very different from kindergarten students. And also when it comes to the proper deployment method, when it comes to the hardware options, for example, those you have to take into consideration who your end users are, and even within the same group of end users, what exactly is the lesson, the topics that you're teaching, and then you need to customize the kind of solutions accordingly, right? So there needs to be a bit of customization involved in the overall solution design. And point number 3, I think very importantly, is to also invite participation of the end users, because when it comes to education, and when it comes to, or generally speaking, digital transformation is not meant to be a one-way kind of unilateral way of trying to feed information to the users. It normally works better if you actually invite participation from the other side to co-design or localize the kind of content accordingly. So definitely invite some sort of participation to give the end user some sort of ownership of the solutions they eventually get. And sometimes because they are the ones who are eventually working on the ground, so they will give you actually better insights regarding what needs to be done in the solutions, and eventually the kind of solutions will turn out much, much better. So I think that's my just some like very quick input from our side, 5 cents from our team. Back to you, Ferro.
Apologies, I think Ferro has a connection problem, but maybe Glenn from SmartGen, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, yep. Let me introduce myself. I'm Glenn from SmartGen, the co-founder of SmartGen. Let me give you a brief introduction about myself. So I've been in the private education space for more than 10 years. I have observed how educators work in terms of their workflow, from preparation of their content, worksheet preparation, distribution of the worksheets or question or the homeworks to the students, marking of the student homework, preparation of the reports, and analyze students' strength and weakness or learning progress. Everything has been very manual in the past. So as an engineering graduate, my passion is always to bring data and AI technology into the education space, because I think still a lot of educators, I mean, we started before COVID happens, and at the time, still a lot of educators are not using technology to help with their day-to-day teaching. So that was our vision, and turned out COVID happened, and we see a lot of educators come on board. And of course, we are being thrown to a different challenges right now. But eventually, the vision that we are doing here is that how do we actually make use of the data and AI technology to make providing personalized education easy and efficient. Since we were still in the school, we realized that lesson has been one size fit all, and educators to come up with a customized lesson to the students is not easy. And how do we actually come up with the technology to help educators? That's the focus of our SmartGen. Luki, back to you.
I think Ferro is back.
Yeah. This is the real example of how internet connectivity is crucial to any digital transformation agenda. Just happened. Sorry, I was out a little bit because of the connectivity error. So, Luki, which one is the latest startup that we asked the question to? I just want to make sure I'm not repeating.
We've introduced Glenn from SmartGen. Now we can move on to Twitter, Hansing.
Got it. Cool. Thank you. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I'm using my phone right now, which is surprisingly faster than Wi-Fi. So so this is questions for Hansing from Twitter. So in the future, Nadiem Makarim, who is the Minister of Education, has the idea of what we call Merdeka Belajar, or freedom of learning. The idea of Merdeka Belajar is all the students is allowed to learn anything from anyone through any channel, so they can create anything. It will help students to build their personalized portfolio of learning experience. How do you think Twitter can help the minister's vision? Hansing.
Thanks for the question, Ferro. I hope everyone is hearing me loud and clear. Everything all good? Yeah, just in addition, and thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah. In addition to Ferro's introduction of me a while ago, I'd just like to add on that basically Twitter, we are basically a self-serve, automated, location-based ed tech platform that connects learners, trainers, merchants, and institutions to discover, to transact with each other 24/7. So that's what we do. We currently operate in Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. We have about 17,000 trainers, instructors, coaches, tutors in these 4 countries. And we actually match them together so that students will be able to enjoy affordability, accessibility in education, plus learner individuals who would like to monetize, so-called, to make money out of teaching. They can also join our platform. So that's what we do. And recently, you probably see a logo here. Oh, sorry, it should be here. Okay. Now, we actually created a new product called 10-Minute Tutor. So what it does is that it's actually an on-demand tutor app that instantly connect tutors and students together for revision, for homework. Student can just find the tutor who is teaching their subjects, and everything happens on a tablet or a mobile phone. So it's that instant. Now, back to the question that Phil just asked. It is actually estimated that in 28 Indonesian, one actually owns a computer at home. However, this same 20 Indonesians, right, 15 of them would actually own a smartphone today. Yes, 3 out of 4. So that mobile computing power, right, which many say to rival the combined processor speed, the power required to land human on the moon in the 70s, are just too valuable to go to waste. Imagine we can actually harness that and allow more students to learn on the move, on the go, independent of a desktop or laptop. So with Indonesia's internet penetration of close to 50%, if I'm not wrong, and 4G penetration more than 85% right now, and like Ferro has mentioned earlier, 5G is coming, it is definitely possible. That's why I agree totally with Minister Nadiem's vision at Twitter. Other than the on-demand tutor product, which I just mentioned earlier, called 10-Minute Tutor, we have also platform services that allow students to hire, whether it's on academic subjects or not, via video telephony technology over smartphone tablets. We also have application that integrates with our proprietary LMS, allowing students to document their learning journey, not just academic, but also life skills, soft skills, and even personal hobbies. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So I have a question for SmartGen this time. So I have seen the demo of a SmartGen technology, and SmartGen has vast array of a questions bank and a lot of ready-to-use content that is based on Singaporean standard, which is known as one of the best education standard system in the world. So the question for SmartGen is, how will be the best way for Indonesian education institution to adopt this?
All right, thanks for the questions. Let me answer your questions and bring a little bit back about the history of how we started SmartGen. So as I mentioned earlier, that SmartGen started before COVID. And at the time when we wanted to onboard educators to the digital space, right, it is not very easy because we understand there is a gap between offline to online. And one of the biggest pain point is actually how do we actually digitalize the content from the offline to the online space. And because of that, we had that in mind. And in the very early days when we started created SmartGen, we understand the importance of redesigning learning management system that is already in the market. That is about the same since decades ago when we were still in the school. So the unique difference of unique selling point of SmartGen is that we are not just a learning management system, but we are also a content management system combined into a learning management system that eventually have a very powerful performance management system that is able to churn out the reports about the students' learning progress. With the content management system as one of the core feature in SmartGen, we put in our own content into the system to make it very easy for educators to come on board to use a digital product. So in the past, we realized that educators, when you want to create a worksheet, probably you buy it from an offline bookstore, you type it in, you print it out, send to the students. But with SmartGen, what we do is that we redesign the whole thing here. Everything is in digital version. That happened when we started in Singapore before COVID. And because of COVID, of course, we had the opportunity to work with other educators in different markets. So we understand when we go to different markets, Singapore content is really quite reputable and widely used in the world. We observe that educators from different regions, they are using Singapore content as a secondary content to supplement their primary education in the school. Having said that, what we observe is that educators still find the localized content is very important, and they actually put in their content in SmartGen system with that primary content and secondary content that's based on Singapore education system. It adds values to the whole experience of teaching in the school. So that is how SmartGen put together the localized content and Singapore content to help educators from different regions to achieve their learning objective.
Cool. So thank you. I think this is very great because this provides a jump, right? Because if you want to learn from the best, you have to mimic the best. And now that with SmartGen, all the content are from Singaporean system, I think this will help a lot of education institutions in Indonesia to jump ahead, several steps rather than just, linearly. So I think we still have 7 minutes before we are moving to the next session, which is the breakout room where everybody can see the demo. So this is the same questions that we asked the panel one. I want to ask everybody, all the startups here, to imagine and dream about the future. Let's say we are in 2025. What kind of future that will be different, that will be brought by your technology, product, and services? What kind of the future that you imagine we will be living in? So maybe I can start with the Hyperlab.
Yeah, sure. I think when it comes to education, education itself is a very complex topic, right? And for us, instead of imagining how Hyperlab's products will eventually be used by different kind of players within the education sector, we would like to imagine a future where technology, generally speaking, as a whole, the edutech as a whole, can be seamlessly blended into people's lives, including education as well as the other aspects of lives. Because when you look at when you think about some of those very fancy terms such as AI, immersive technology, etc., being used in education sector, you might think that these are ideas which are pretty new. But let's say take a look at your smartphone. Nowadays, when you start using it, the first thing you think about it is definitely not something like, wow, this is a new piece of technology. When Steve Jobs launched the first iPhone, that's 2007, I think somewhere about there. And then in a few years' time, people start to using it, right? So if we're imagining a kind of future 5 years down the road, how technologies can benefit our lives, we like to think of a future where the edutech can be seamlessly blended into people's lives. And at the same time, I think another thing that we need to always remind ourselves is that we should have realistic expectations of technologies. For us, immersive technology works pretty well in certain aspects of education, but for other very important skill sets, such as critical thinking, etc., you would still require the conventional way of teaching to train our students with some sort of abstract thinking kind of skill sets. So we hope to achieve a future where there's really a hybrid way of learning and prepare our students for a world that is coming up, in the face of digital transformation and Industry 4.0.
Awesome. Maybe the next one, maybe Glenn from SmartGen. How do you see your solution can help advance the education state of situation in Indonesia 5 years down the road?
Yeah, sure. I totally agree with what you just said, that we need to manage the expectation of what technology can bring to the education space. So when AI was the hot topic a few years ago, because of the mature of the technology, data technology, everyone was afraid that AI is going to here to replace humans. I mean, in different industry as well. But of course, in the education industry, there are a lot of sayings about whether educators will be replaced by the AI. But I personally feel that we have to set the right expectation of what AI can actually help educators, especially in the education field, right? We understand the importance roles of educators in helping the students in their learning. Probably teachers' role will change with the introduction of this kind of high technology. Probably educators can be more efficient in their managing their workflows, and with the time that's being saved from all this through this technology, teacher can actually spend more time with the students, The change of role can be from a very hands-on educator's role in the traditional classroom right now to probably a facilitator in the classroom that actually can come in to help students from different aspects. For example, the emotional status of the students. So this is what we envision the advantage of the progression of technology into the education field is definitely very helpful and very exciting. What we personally excited to see in the education field is that how we can actually move educators from offline to online and eventually blend this into a traditional classroom, use the technology to capture the right data about students' learning status, and how do we actually analyze and make good use of the data to personalize the whole experience. And that's what we really are excited about to see in the next 5 years to come.
Awesome. Last but not least, Hansing from Twitter. Illustrate us about the future in your head when your solution can be adopted widely. Please.
I think Ferro knows that I majored in microbiology during my university days. Now, regrettably, the virus that we are looking at right now took more than 20 years to perfect itself. If we call SARS a cliffhanger of what this virus could really do, I'm afraid COVID might just be that trailer based on the ferocious number of variants we have been witnessing in the past week alone. Now, the scientific community that I belong to feels that it is here to stay. And even the Singapore government, we are actually downgrading or rather upgrading the pandemic to an endemic, which is no different from your flu virus seasons that pop up from time to time. And even viruses related to mosquito, for example. Now, having said that, I still hope that 4 years from now, Indonesia and every country on earth will be COVID-free. Not just COVID, maybe if we think wider, we are actually more prepared, hopefully everyone, in other health and even environmental challenges. I believe that these challenges, which is a culmination of what we have done to Mother Earth since the beginning of last century, will make education difficult to conduct in a conventional way that we see today. So for that reason, right, we want to, for Twitter, we want to continue to evolve our product, combining AI technology, big data to be able to identify as accurately as possible a person's strengths, weaknesses in studies, better predict learning outcomes with AR, VR imaging technology to make teaching more effective and interesting. And again, not forgetting mental health, when you can interact with your classmate to bring back that classroom experience, human to human interaction as close as possible through our technologies. That is what I hope that we can achieve by 2025.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So we are at a time, right at the 3 o'clock Jakarta time. So I would like to say the highest appreciation again for all our panelists. We have Associate Professor Iqbal. Thank you for your time and all the preparation for the deck. I know that that's a lot of work and we really appreciate it. Glenn for great presentation on Smart Chain and how it helped the education community in Indonesia. Hansing from Twitter, who is, with all your vision, even though your background is a microbiology, but I think you have a lot of passion in education. And also Yuanyi from Hyperlab. I think the future is about virtual reality, and your experience helping big clients will help a lot of education institutions in Indonesia to transform. So really appreciate and thank you, everybody. But the session has not been over because we still have the third session, which is the breakout room. This is the core of it all, because then you will be able to see and ask and talk up close and personally with all the founder of the startup. You can talk directly and you can see the demo as well from them and see how the technology and solution can help your organization and your education institution. So maybe I would like to invite Luki about the detail of how they will be able to join the breakout.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this event. Kindly click on the chat box at the bottom. There's a link that will lead you straight to the breakout room. the booth session where you can go into any of the startups breakout room and chat with them directly.
Cool. It will be in another Zoom call, right? But once you click there, you will be redirected right into the breakout room that you of your choice. Okay. So I think, Luki, this is it from my side, right? So I would like to say thank you for your time, and hope you enjoyed the demo and hope you get the most value out of this session. And myself, I'm Ferro. I would like to excuse myself and have a good day for everybody. Stay safe and stay healthy.